All right, I'm going to get this show on the road. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here, for all of you in the room, and welcome to all of you who are online streaming this process. I'm your Secretary of State, Phil McGrain, and it is my privilege to help kick off the first of a four-part series for the Idahoans for Openness in Government. It really is a priority for us to be able to promote transparency and access to public information. And as I kick it off, there's a couple things I want to share before we pass it off to my good friend and colleague, Brandon Wolf, who's going to highlight just transparency in the finances here in the state of Idaho. There's a couple of quotes each time I've had the opportunity to get together with IDOG that I think just really highlight the importance of what we're here to do today, to focus on transparency. The first is one that my longtime mentor and friend used to quote all the time, Ben Usursa. It's from Henry Clay. Government is a trust, and the officers of the government are trustees. And both the trust and the trustees are created for the benefit of the people. I think just to take it one step further, and you probably wouldn't have expected me to quote this, but as Mother Teresa, honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyway. And I think there's, when you think of public service and government as a trust, I think that highlights it better than ever. And I have one last one, and I think it's particularly fitting today as we kick things off. It comes from Patrick Henry. The liberties of a people never were, never ever will be secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them. And I think that highlights it even better because as of this morning, I have a confession to make. At 9 a.m. today, the State Board of Land Commissioners, of which I am one, just announced a special meeting on Friday at 9 a.m. to cure a mistake in a motion on an open meetings. It was a mistake regarding the open meeting law. And so we're working to cure that. And I think just being honest in government, knowing when we make mistakes and how to make them better, is part of the government being responsible to the people and respecting the beneficiaries who we serve. And so to kick off IDOG and to highlight openness in government, both Brandon and I both serve as members of the Land Board. We want to kick it off by making sure we are open and transparent and hopefully encouraging not just state officials, but local officials all around the state of Idaho to do the same. You're going to get to see a great series over these 4 parts talking about both transparency in finance, issues regarding lobbying, campaign finance, open meeting laws, and public records. And so with that, I want to turn it over to the person really behind the scenes that makes all this possible, our good friend, Betsy Russell.
Thanks very much, Phil. I am Betsy Russell. I'm the president of IDOG, and I am a retired newspaper reporter. IDOG is a nonprofit coalition for openness in government and is affiliated with the National Freedom of Information Coalition. You can find out more about IDOG at our website, openidaho.org. IDOG's mission is to foster open government supervised by an informed and engaged citizenry. We believe that we all benefit when the public, the media, and government officials are fully aware of the public's rights to access government information and observe the conduct of the public's business. Today, you are invited to submit questions during the presentation. For those of you who are online, which are 80% of our participants today, you can submit those by email to the email address idogquestions@gmail.com. For those who are present in person in the room, you've got some little cards and pencils. Please feel free to write down your questions at any time during the presentation and just hold them up, and a volunteer will come take them from you and bring them to the moderators, who are Phil and myself, and we will pose those to our presenter later in the program. Also, after this session, a full recording will be available on our website, openidaho.org. It may be a few days before it goes up. Any of you, either in person or online, who are attorneys, this session has applied for continuing legal education credit through the Idaho State Bar, and it is pending approval. If you are interested in signing up for that credit, please sign up either at the back of the room or by sending an email to that same address, idogquestions@gmail.com, and provide your name, bar number, and email address. And now I am very pleased to introduce our lead presenter today, Idaho State Controller Brandon Wolf. Brandon is Idaho's 21st state controller. He grew up on a dairy farm in Preston, Idaho. Yes, that Preston of Napoleon Dynamite fame. He earned the rank of Eagle Scout, graduated from Utah State University with a degree in political science, and holds an MBA from Boise State University. He started at the state controller's office in 1997 as an intern and served in an array of positions, including bureau chief, division administrator, and chief of staff. He was appointed to fill the remainder of his predecessor, Donna Jones's term in 2012, and confirmed as state controller by a unanimous vote of the Idaho State Senate. He was then elected by the people of Idaho to a full term of office in 2014 and was reelected in 2018 and in 2022. His wife of 29 years, Jana Lee, also hails from Preston, and they have 3 adult children. Brandon started Transparent Idaho in 2012 to provide better access for Idaho citizens to state government financial data, and it has expanded significantly since then. He has made government transparency a hallmark of his tenure as state controller, and he and Governor Brad Little launched Townhall Idaho in 2022 to serve as an online one-stop shop for all public meeting information for state executive branch agencies. Please join me in welcoming our presenter today, State Controller Brandon Wolf.
Well, good morning. I think my mom must have helped you write that. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and it's an honor to be here and be part of this panel and group of these 4-part series. We look forward to sharing the key pieces of transparency and what it means. Just a quick thing of my run of the show here. We've done the quick introduction. I want to talk about citizen engagement, why transparency is important, and from the financial perspective. I want to do a quick little show of the state, Transparent Idaho, and then local transparency, actually show you a little bit of that. Talk about the future of Transparent Idaho, and then wrap up with a little piece on Town Hall. So just real quick, even my mom asks sometimes, "No, what do you do as the state controller? What is the state controller?" I get asked that all the time. Grateful to answer that. So think of the controller as the checkbook and the treasurer as the savings account. So as the fiscal officer, we pay all the state employees, roughly 25,000 state employees, and there are 90 state agencies that we process all the expenses and all the payments for. We have 4 divisions in our office, 114 employees, and a unique thing for our office as a controller compared to all other state controllers in the country is we actually have the state's data center. So let me briefly talk about this for a second. Citizen engagement. You know, traditionally, the reasons for public and citizen engagement in planning and budgeting include these 5 items. And they're key, and they're important, and they're helpful. And I think that's the utopia, that's the ideal of what any municipality or state, city, county would want, right? How you could build that trust in decision-making, be part of that process. If I were to ask, and I won't do this, but if we polled and said, how many people attended their county budget hearing meetings or their city office budget meetings? Now, some of you are in the media, maybe you have, and I give you extra kudo points. But how many citizens, Joe Citizen, is showing up to participate? And I sit there and say, the citizen engagement is low. And there's probably key reasons. And I take 2 reasons here. We kind of talked about 2 items that came up that I think really drive in why. 1 is the trust in government, and 2 is the amount of information. So let me just briefly show. I love to show this chart. It's from the Pew Research Center. So on the y-axis, you have what the question is, the percent who say they trust their federal government to do what is right about always or most of the time. And on the y-axis, you have the percentages from 80 down to 0, and on the x-axis, you have from 1958 to 2019. We do have updated information, but you can see in 1964, the trust in government peaked at 77%. And then you see another peak in 2001. And that's when we had the terrorist attacks in New York City, D.C. And we remember those times. In fact, we still had on our pay stubs, because we went live with online pay stubs for the state a month before that happened, and we had United We Stand was on the top of those pay stubs for state employees. It was still there. And now it's dropped off. And the interesting thing is I ask groups, do you trust your government? And if you ask this, do you trust your federal government? Not very many hands. Do you trust your state government? Well, maybe a little bit more. And then I ask, do you trust your local governments or your schools? And there's a higher percentage. I see Mayor Smith, he's my neighbor, I see him at the grocery store. I can say, hey, there's a pothole out in front, let's get that fixed. Or it's Mayor, or it's Council City Member Sally, I can contact her. It's a little easier to do that and have that build that trust that way. Here's another fun one. So trust was one, but I think there's an information tsunami. There's so much information available. Where do you even start? So if you want to Google, when you have some time, Google domo.com and Google Data Never Sleeps. Domo has been doing this for 10 years, and they said in year 2022, there's actually 97 zettabytes of data is created in a year. And they expect in 2025, 181 zettabytes. A zettabyte is equal to 1 billion terabytes. Lots of zeros, lots of numbers, right? Here's some fun facts. Every minute, how much data is created? So Venmo, $438,000 is transacted every minute through Venmo. Maybe some of you help with Amazon. $443,000 is transacted through Amazon every minute. Streaming, 1 million hours of video is streamed every minute. And of course, the fun one, Zoom, 185,000 hours of Zoom meetings are taking place every minute. That is a lot of information. Here's another fun one, these key items. Google, there's 6 million Google searches every minute, where 10 years ago it was 2 million. YouTube, YouTube and Instagram have taken off. YouTube, 10 years ago was 48 hours was uploaded every minute. Now over 500 hours of videos are uploaded every minute. And Instagram, you can see the takeoff there. Now, the fun one I see on the far right is emails. I'm glad to see all of you love emails, getting lots of emails, responding to all of them. They are slowing down. 204 million emails were sent every minute 10 years ago. Now it's only 231 million. So it is slowing down. It's helpful. But the point being, there is a lot of information. As Secretary McGrain pointed out, some of these historic comments and quotes about transparency. It's not something new. Thomas Jefferson in 1802 said, we might hope to see the finances of the Union as clear and intangible as a merchant's book, so that every member of Congress and every man of any mind in the Union should be able to comprehend them, to investigate abuses, and consequently to control them. So I talk about being the 5 pillars of transparency. 1, how can we restore the public's trust? How can we instigate a cultural change? And by that, I even got a phone call last Friday from a county commissioner in North Idaho that said, I can't get the information from my county clerk that we need for our budget. Again, it's a cultural change. From our standpoint, we take it, if it's public information, we have put that public information out on Transparent Idaho. It's not a question. We've already spent the time and effort to go through and identify what's public and what's private information, what's confidential. So we changed that culture standpoint of saying, if it's public, let's put it out there, instead of, a lot of times people will say, I'm going to hold on to it, you do your FOIA, or you do your public information request, and then I'll work towards giving it to you. We want to change that culture, that aspect. Obviously, being able to deter fraud, that's the main one. Time-wise permitting, I can say, shared lots of stories. I'll save them at the end to see if there is time. But that's a key piece. But transparency is also can be used. The bad guys use Transparent Idaho for bad as well. And but we hope in a sense of being public records, posting it out there. You know, Supreme Court Justice Brandeis said in 1914, he said the famous line, sunlight is the best of disinfectants. Shining the light and being able to help deter that fraud. And of course, accountability, I think, is a huge item here. Holding public officials accountable. We can't just say, trust us when people are crying out to say, show us. And another favorite line I love to say is, obscurity is the best friend of conspiracy. So what's going on behind closed doors, right? What's going on? I use the example of, you can tell I love my cookies. And my mom is a great cook, my wife loves to cook, and I have a special chocolate chip recipe. Maybe I'll have to share that if that's one of the questions at the end. I'll share my chocolate chip recipe cookie. But growing up on the farm, my mom had wolf ears, and she could hear if we tried to sneak into those cookie jar, right? She could hear me lift that up. No matter where she was at on the farm, it seemed like she could hear it, and she always knew that. So after a while, I realized, Mom can always hear me sneaking in. Mom's watching. And I use that same thing here. If we have open, we're transparent, and share the information, we have a lot of moms watching, right? We have 1.9 million Idahoans are watching. And so if we take that analogy, if mom's watching, are people going to make that expenditure? Are they going to do that knowing that information is going to be put out on Transparent Idaho? And so from that standpoint, that helps hold more people accountable. Now to sit there and say, have you seen that or that? I don't know, because I haven't seen, because I hope the state employees, and maybe now as we move further with local transparency, that we know that people are more accountable for what they're transacting. And of course, you know, that last piece there of being able to have for elected officials, public officials, to be able to say, I trust this data, and now I can make better data-driven decisions. With this information I have, now I know what I can choose to up or down on a vote on this certain transaction or action to take place. So those are the 5 key pillars, I think, of why data transparency is so important and critical. So I'm going to adjust here, and we'll do a little demo here for a second. And I want to switch over and show our Transparent Idaho. So the site is transparent.idaho.gov, and I'll do this. Those online you can raise your hand too, but those are here in the crowd. How many of you have been to Transparent Idaho? Quite a few, okay. So this is the homepage, and to give a little, it's working good. So let me just show this top menu bar here. There's reports, and there are several pre-built reports. There's payroll, annual reports, financial, workforce. If you're wanting to quickly see the highest paid employees, the state, there we go. We have Coach Avalos, right? And Coach Rice, et cetera, et cetera. So quick little thing there of just being able to have pre-built reports that are the key ones that citizens love to jump on and go to. We do have quite a bit with the COVID from the, I can't even remember what all I can think of is CRF. COVID relief funds and ARPA funds and all that. We have tracked anything that's gone through our office and other things. We've been able to track all the COVID dollars. And there's a special area here of COVID expenditures as well from, and that's a key item, has been, still is a hot topic. Through these other 6 tiles, they're just quick information, but let me come to the key piece here. What we found using Google Analytics is, what do people want when they come to Transparent Idaho? And they want to make it easy. We joke about, I tell my staff, we need to make this as easy as possible so that my grandma can find it and do it. And thanks to my staff that's here and all their support and work that they've done on this. So I love to show, I always would use the example of fish, and my wife teased me, you always use fish. Like, okay, well, I'm going to use water then. So I'm going to type in water here in this little Google-like search Oh, see, look, guys, we already got a little intercept here. Why did we come today? We're just looking around. But when I type in water, and we're looking at the workforce standpoint, so it will find an agency that has water in the name. In this case, it has the Department of Water Resources. It also found the Soil and Water Commission. And it will pull open any employees that have water in their first or last name, or if it has a job title. So in this case, it has the agencies first, the employees, and if I scroll to the very bottom here, it has all the different jobs that have water in that job title. Does that make sense? So that's why I use fish, because you pull open Fish and Game, someone that had less fish or fisher, whatever, and all the fish biologists. But if I want to, I could click the magnifying glass and pull open all these, or let's just pull open Water Resources. Now I have the 161 employees as of last night that work at the Department of Water Resources. And with these columns, I can see the pay rates. Let's do this. Let's put them in descending order. And now we have it from highest to lowest, their hourly rate, where they work. Well, let's say we want to find everyone. Another little tip, if you left-click mouse, say search for Ada, and now I have the 109 employees that work for the Department of Water Resources in descending order for their salaries, just like that. So a lot of information there. All the current state employees and former employees back to a certain point in time are on there as well, so you can look those up. And when you do a search, let me do my own name. I'll be transparent here. Let's put in Wolf. And one little trick, your cursor needs to be in that little box for whatever reason here. But as I type ahead, I found Brandon Wolf, and must have lots of little cousins in our Wolf pack here. So you can see former employees, and it has their job title of what they are. So now that's from the employee standpoint. Let me switch this over, because another key item is actual vendor payments. And I'm going to type in here, I always would use pizza, because that was always been my thing, but I'm going to use something a little more fun here. We're going to type in Delta. As I type in Delta, did I get that? I can't even see my eyes. So we have Delta Airlines, there's Delta Dental of Idaho, which has the state's dental plan for the state employees, several others. And then you see all these P cards. Now, most of the time when you're purchasing an airline ticket, you're purchasing it online and you're using a credit card. State employees are using their P card, which is their purchasing card, to transact and purchase their lines. So from this example, I'm going to just leave Delta. I'm going to click on the magnifying glass. And now I'm searching all 8 years, fiscal years that we have loaded in there, and it pulled open 15,536 rows of data here. It has the agencies, here's by fiscal year, and all the data down below. But let me just show the screen a little bit, some of the key things. If you're so inclined and you want to share it and you're so excited you want to share it on Facebook or Twitter, it will share this exact where you are and whatever filters you put in place. I know that's what a lot of you will want to do, I'm sure. But here's the key part. Whatever you have and filtered and put in and you're searching for, and you do a download, it will download and pull that data. So in this case, it would pull down the 15,000 rows plus rows of data here. All this information down below. And export that to a CSV and Excel spreadsheet type form. So this has told me here is a quick set of what the filters are. We did Delta and its expenditures. You can go back. If I could add another search from here. One other quick thing that I think is very valuable. Not all of you know the state's chart of accounts structure. So let me give you this little, we built this little link here. Now this is for our old structure. We'll have a new one coming out, but if you click on that little link at the top, it will give you the account structure. Now, you may say, well, I want to know how much does the state spend on laundry. Now you know what the code is. It's 5110. And that's helpful in the sense of if I come back here, that sub-object code, is this line here. So being able to tie in here and do your search and being able to tie in. So those are some quick tips that way. Over here on the left, you have the pre-built reports that I showed back on the home screen. And then below that is, and we've always teased there in the sense of why these filters are at the bottom here, but if you click on this filters, there's a great power here, especially in this broken down by. So right now we're seeing the expenditures for Delta, any payment that we've paid out of our office that has Delta in the vendor name. But I want to change this now, and I want to switch it to vendor name. And now the data visualization is I'm seeing this by the vendor names of the highest dollar amount. So in this case, I'm seeing Delta P card for Delta Air, and that's that one. So for fiscal year, there was $521,000 spent on Delta P card from state agencies. And if I wanted to just look at that one individually, I can just click on that, and now I see that there. I can book by line. Now these aren't going to be powerful because I've just selected one item. But if I take off the P card here, again, you have quickly changing your visualization. Or by a pie chart, then you can see the percentage broken down by fiscal year by sliding this little at the bottom there, okay? There's a lot more power over here on the filters, being able to do aggregate information. You can see the dollar amounts, et cetera, et cetera. There's a powerful of what you can slice and dice to get through the data. Now there's about 80 million rows of financial data for these 8 fiscal years. So there's about 10 million rows added each year. So we talked about a lot of data, but the key part is how can you filter, get down to what you're looking for specifically. So this has all been on the state side, state agencies and state information, and we've been live with this for about 4 years now. We went live in April of 2019. But it had always been, and we had previously, as Betsy had mentioned, we had gone live with our first transparency website in January of 2013. But it was all PDFs. PDFs are great in that, but they're not very searchable, easy to slice and dice or to move the information around. So that was a key piece of being able to move to this more recent information and data of this type of world and where we're in, of being able to get to the data. So the vision and goal was, I always wanted to get local transparency as well. How could we have that, and what could we do there? And so, clear back 10 years ago, I always wanted to say, how could we have the cities, the counties, the school districts data and have one place to go to? And the counties, except I think Benawa, they do have a website now, probably because they have new county commissioners, but because Jack's not there anymore, right? And I'm sure he's streaming, so. But the key part was large cities, most of the counties, they have this information. And I kudos to them and what they've done. The vision, though, was how could we put it in one place so you had one place to look up that information and do the comparisons. So if you have 44 counties here in Idaho, 199 incorporated cities, from Boise that has what we have to Warm River that's incorporated with 4 people, 186 LEAs, local education associations, so school districts and charters, and 830 plus taxing districts. So we're talking mosquito abatement, cemetery, fire, ambulance, those taxing districts. There's 832 of them. There's 38 categories of those local taxing districts throughout the state. So if you add that up, if you're wanting to go and dive and find that information, you're going to over 1,200 websites to try to find that. And so that was always the vision of, is there a possibility to move that so all of that financial information is on one side? And a couple of key reasons from the local was, being able to do the comparisons, get best practices. What did County Clerk Phil McGrain do when he was county clerk that was helpful or best practice that he shared or information? And so being able to have the county clerks say, well, what's the best here? Or a county commissioner being able to ask. When we do our Google Analytics, 99% of everyone coming to our website, they're looking for employee pay rates. And so that was a key push as well. We thought, well, if people want to look up employee pay rates, I'm sure they want to look up in the pay rates for county and city officials, school districts. Property tax seems to be a hot topic. How can we move forward with that? And another hot topic that the legislature and others are following is the fund balances. What's their cash reserve? And what are they doing? So 2 years ago, House Bill 73 was passed by the legislature and signed by Governor Little. Basically, two key pieces. One, it was to create a uniform accounting manual, but we refer to it more as a uniform reporting manual. We don't want to change the financial systems of what these locals have. We want to change and standardize what they report out of their systems. So, and then the other second bullet was the language of the bill says in House Bill 73 is that all cities, counties, school districts, and local districts are to provide to the Controller's Office their financial information, and we are to put it on Transparent Idaho with our deadline of January 2025. So let me just give a quick little background. Our thought was if there's 44 counties, they're the low-hanging fruit. They're a smaller population than 199 cities or school districts or the taxing districts. So we thought, let's start with the counties. We had Kootenai County and Ada County. Clerk McGrain came to us, and it was Jim Brennan from up there in Kootenai, and Jennifer Locke came to us, and they said, we want to participate. We want to be part of all this. And so what we took was 8 pilot counties and worked with them, large, medium, and small, from north to southwest to eastern Idaho. And we worked with the county clerks to how could we standardize? So what the Ada County may put in their financials and what they would give us, is that the same as what Kootenai or Latah or Benawa or Oahe or Bingham, whatever these counties may have, that it's consistent and standard. So if it's an apple here, it's an apple here, and we have that standardization on that. So that was some of the key pieces we spent our time. And so let me switch over here, and I want to show you our local transparency. Oh no, maybe my mouse is, there we go. So back on the home page, to get to the local transparency is this top middle tile. I'm going to click Explore Data. So here's our new local transparent data for local governments. I'll just go through quickly on the home screen here. We have our mega menu with education, county, city, and local districts. For those that have been through 4th grade Idaho history, you know all your counties and where they're located, and you can sing the song. So you can mouse over that and quickly go to your county. We have our carousel with the hot topics, so education, property tax. But we did some focus groups with citizens, and we said, what's key and important for you? And a lot of them said, well, we want to understand the data, first and foremost. And so that's each of these areas under education, county, city, local, we put a little bit about learn about the data itself. So there's that tile and key areas for each of these locals. So you have education, county, city, and the local. I'm going to jump, as I shared, with the counties first. And again, here's a quick thing. If I know my county, I want to jump to that. But here's the quick homepage for county government. Fun little thing here. My nickname, that will know who listened in, right? It's part of the CLE. So my nickname in high school was Norm from the TV show Cheers. And Norm's little buddy that sat next to him was Cliff Clavin, right? And Cliff Clavin had all of his data and information that he knew. So here is all your fun information. As you mouse over, you can see the county size, the population, and the budget for each of these counties. And for people that may not know Idaho or background real quick of where they are, we did build in alphabetical, again, where you can click on a specific county. But the key part here is we had all the county information. So we took those 8 pilot counties, and once they agreed upon it, they became the champions, and they shared that information, and we shared it with the other 36 counties. And the Association of Counties was an awesome partner as well. And so from all that, we were able to have the data standardized from the 44 counties. So this is probably one of my favorites to show. This is top counties by expenditure. I know the font's small, so if you can't quite see it, I'll kind of read it. But this is by dollar amount, the expenditures by county. So in the course, this one is Ada County with $273 million for fiscal year 22. Then Kootenai, Canyon, Bonneville. And if I use my little scroller here, I can go through all 44 counties. Now that's great, but I would expect the great state of Ada is going to be quite large, right? Here's the beauty. If we switch this over to a percentage, now I can compare Ada County to Clark County, the smallest, right? Now everything's a percentage. Now you're going to say, well, what's the legend here? And it's down below. But let me highlight one. Let's do public safety. I just clicked on public safety, and that's the purple one here. And if I mouse over that, Ada County spent $163 million on public safety. Sheriff's office, jail, and prosecuting attorney. I believe those are kind of the high points. 59.7, so almost 60% of Ada County's budget was spent on public safety. But let's look at like Fremont County. Look at the size there. Just quickly visualize that. Fremont County spent 8.8. Okay, that's smaller than Ada, but percentage-wise, 18%. I'm a county commissioner, or part of, maybe I'm sheriff. What's the difference? What is Fremont County doing that Ada County is spending theirs on? What's Fremont doing that's different? Being able to ask the questions, not be the gotcha questions, but hey, what are the best practices? What are you doing and what are you spending it on? Again, being able to quickly go through this and say, that's that. Highways and bridges. Now you notice Ada, Canyon, and Kootenai don't spend anything on highways and bridges. Is that true? Well, for those that live here, we know we have ACHD, a separate taxing entity. So Ada County doesn't spend anything from that standpoint, so that's what shows that dollar amount. But being able to look here at Madison's spending 21% of their county budget on highways and bridges. Different perspective. And it's interesting as you go around the state geographically, how much is spent on law enforcement on border counties that maybe border Oregon and Washington, of what they're dealing with. What is Fruitland and Payette having to spend with Ontario? It's a whole different ballgame there compared to maybe a central or middle county. It's very interesting. So that's from the expenditure standpoint. Here's expenditures per capita. Clark County spends almost, what was it, $9,000 per person there. Well, they only have 792 citizens that live in Clark County. You can see revenue, another hot item, right? Property taxes. I saw it in the news. There was a legislative meeting a couple days ago talking about PILT, payment in lieu of taxes. It is big for those rural counties. It's big for urban counties too, I would say. But let's switch this here to a percentage. And I'm going to do intergovernmental, which is the PILT. Look at Clearwater County. They rely, 70% of their revenue comes from PILT. And then you switch over here, and I'm going to do this by property tax, which is interesting. I still want to make sure to do a quality assurance. Gooding County only relies on 1% for property tax. So that's one we question, like, is that really true or not? So again, great questions to be able to do the analysis on. So for those that are interested, Ada County, 52% of their budget revenue comes from property tax. Now, we build in some quick things for property tax, fund balances. Now, the hot topic there, let me share. You have the legislature that's saying, what are all these counties, cities, taxing districts, what is their cash balance and their cash reserve? What are they holding on to? And what's the right amount? I think that's a great policy discussion. And it's being able to say what's for. Now, on the flip side, the local governments are like, well, I don't want to give that to you, and I don't want that because you're just going to take it away from us. And there's that fine balance of what is that for, and that's a great policy discussion. But the key part is, as we shared with the counties in this example, we said, tell your story then. If you're remodeling your courthouse, tell your story then. If you're needing to do something. So let me come back. Part of this Mouse is slow. I'm going to select Franklin County, home of Preston and Napoleon Dynamite. We had each of the county clerks provide their own picture for their county. They put a little skin in the game. We had them do that. They also did a write-up about their county. And if I come down here to, in this case, this is Franklin County, and this is what their clerk wrote up. The other funds will be used for, and so we highlighted the top 4 other funds for their cash balances, their cash reserves. In this case, Franklin County has $3 million in the other, $2.8 in general, $1.78 in health insurance, and $500,000 in justice. But what they wrote was the other funds, this one here, will be used for the airport, for a new runway, solid waste operations savings and a new closure, ambulance for a new ambulance that's on back order, and a capital project as we remodel the courthouse. They've put that out there for the citizens or anyone to do. Now they've told their story. So those are the key things there. And one last key part, as you scroll down individually, now this is individual by each county, we can see that Franklin County has a fund balance of $8.4 million, and their total expenditure was $16 million. So half of their budget is on cash reserve. So there's some counties that have over 100%. And I think those are the great policy discussions, right? And what are they doing? But a key thing to keep in mind is the timing of the year, and cash flow is a key thing. Just as cash flow is important at the state level or any business, cash flow is key for local governments as well, as how they get through as the tax expenditures come in. So that's a key thing, the cash fund balance is that way. And again, there's more of the specifics as you look at each county that way. And then down below, we have all the county employees. In this case, you have all the employees for Franklin County, but out on the main homepage, you can see all the county employees statewide. And again, you can use the search functions here. And below, for the taxing districts, we have it specified now of, I want to find the cemetery districts in Franklin County. Now I have every one of the Franklin County cemetery districts listed, their revenues, expenditures, and I can click on the link to pull open their budget. And we have a link to Franklin County's budget and Franklin County's audit, and we can go to their website. So all of that information we've posted and have available for all the counties. Briefly, from the city standpoint, we're working with the cities. We did a pilot to level set what's the standard for all the cities. 44 is a little easier than 199 when you have from Boise down to Warm River. So we're working on how do you standardize. Warm River probably does it on the back of a napkin or QuickBooks or whatever. Several do QuickBooks. How do you standardize all that? And so that's a key piece. But we've sent out, and now we are asking for all the cities to submit their information in the next couple of weeks. We do have all of the school districts, the LEAs, but we're at a summarized higher level right now. So if you look on education, I can pop in here. Let's put in Mackey. For all those that may be from Mackey that are in the room. Oh, there's one. My chief of staff's from Mackey and still ranches up there. But here's Mackey School District, and I can see year over year, 2019, 2020, 2021, revenues and expenditures year over year. Now we have the summarized level for the school districts, and we also have all of the school districts' employees, what their pay rates are for certified and classified employees. And again, use the filters here to search and quickly find an employee or a whole school of employees there. So our goal of what we're working on, our team is working with the Board of Ed. All the school districts funnel their information in through there. We'll get a single pipeline. We're working to get the transactional level detail of the 186 school districts and charters. Be able to drive. Now, do I want to know how many number 2 pencils that Bonneville School District? Maybe not. But there's other key things that are very beneficial. There's a lot of money that the legislatures expended to schools, and a lot of citizens say, where is that money going? Is it going to administration? Is it going to that higher level? Or where is it being spent? And that's our goal, is being able to shine that light there. My key thing is I live in West Ada, and I see a whole bunch of school buses drive by my house, and I want to know how much to spend on diesel. Because I swear there's 15 school buses that go by within 15 minutes. And like, aren't they all going to the same school? So last, Come on, Mousy. The local districts, and my time is just about out here, but the same with local districts of where you can search and find those 800 plus. We're working to, again, how we standardize so that cemetery districts report all the same way, or highway districts report the same way, that consistency. So again, you can search by mosquito, cemetery, whatever you want, that's all here. And down below, we have, I think there was 38, 42 local urban renewal districts. So we have a copy of each one of the urban renewal districts that you could click on and search there throughout the state. Our goal and thing with local transparency is we're going to continue to work and load and have more information. And the key part there is to have the metrics. And one thing as I wrap up is Transparent Idaho, local thing, and everything we do with this, it is a tool. It's a very powerful tool. It's a very helpful tool. But think of a hammer, water, electricity, the internet. It can be used for bad. And it's how it's used. You can use a hammer to build a beautiful home, but you can use a hammer to tear it down and to destroy. It's the context behind what you're grabbing and doing. And so I may grab the same thing. It's the context behind it. And if I can share an example real quick, like one example, I've used this a lot, but it's a key thing. I think it's valuable. There was a Midwestern state where a journalist had done some searching on the transparency of a state government, and they found that this government official had purchased some stuff from Victoria's Secrets. And he really had and bought some clothing, and it wasn't for his wife. So it was a great big story, rightfully so. Well, the journalist's like, well, is there other state employees or others that have done Victoria's Secret? And I have to always check myself and do a quick Victoria's Secret. Is the state of Idaho paid as well? But last time I checked, we were okay. But this journalist found another payment from another state agency, and they thought, aha, we've got one here. Long story short, Victoria's Secret owned that highway billboard, and the state agency was just advertising on that highway billboard. So it's the context behind the story, right? Understand that fully. So let me wrap up here. The vision of the future. You know, a key piece here, what do we include going forward? If you have feedback or information or say, hey, Brandon, Controller's Office, this would be wonderful if you had this, or if you could do that, please share. We are open ears. We want to hear. We want to make this better. This is for everyone. This is for all Idahoans. I kind of take it in these 3 steps. And the higher we go, the better. So, yeah, we can put out 80 million rows of financial data for the state. Well, that's great. And as I shared, that data never sleeps. There's a lot of information. That's informing. But if we can educate, that's today. And that's where I still feel that we're at, is at that education point. But if we could go to that higher level, that engagement, back and forth, and truly have a stronger tie-in there of what exactly is taking place, or these metrics, or have that involvement, that citizen engagement, I think that is the great goal that we should shoot for. So as we close that, let me switch gears, totally switching gears here. As Betsy mentioned, Governor Little and I were visiting one day, and we talked about, like, hey, it was during the COVID time, and we're like, how can we have better citizen engagement and something? And we're like, how about if we could put all the public meetings somehow on one website? And so we brainstormed the idea of what is now called townhall.idaho.gov. This is required now for all state agencies, boards, and commissions to post their public meetings. And let me just, I'll go live here. Show. And so it will pull open the default for today. So today there's a youth committee meeting, there's Idaho Career Ready, appeals, all these. Let me just share, though. I'm going to come back here to August 15th and do a search. The reason why is I know that was one that we led with the Board of Examiners. So the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Governor are the 3 board members. I'm the Secretary, but I'm a non-voting member on the Board of Examiners. And we handle all claims against the state. But what is on here, you have information, contact information, you have the physical location, We have a link to the agenda. We have a link to the public meeting notice that has to be done. We have a recording of the meeting. And we have the history of when the meeting was published, the notice went out, when the agenda was published, and when the recording was added. And the big piece here is the virtual. I hope and push, and that's my push, I know it's governor's push, that all state agencies continue to use the virtual as well, have a hybrid. The reason why I say that, we all think the great state of Ada is great and wonderful. But having grown up in Preston, you know, it's a 4.5-hour drive to get here. I think that's the great piece of being able to do it within your home, to log in like there's 80 people logged on right now watching this from throughout all of Idaho, of being able to participate. You may be in Bonner's Ferry and you want to listen to a fish and game meeting that's in Boise or in Idaho Falls. That's the power. And the one other quick thing I'll highlight is, if you haven't, there is a subscribe button. And with that subscribe, you can go on and subscribe, and then you can select which agencies you have interest in that you want to be notified. And so you'll receive an email notification that the Board of Education is meeting next week at 9 o'clock, and there's all the information. This will pop up in a link. So again, to increase citizen engagement. Let me close there and just wrap up with this piece here of saying, again, thank you for your participation, your engagement, your involvement. There's key parts. We'll be glad to share any one of our staff members to dive in further, more details or other information, or if you have key questions. If you have suggestions, we would love to hear that. And I think that's the part that makes it better for all of us, and being able to have that. It comes back to those 5 pillars of being able to build the trust, decrease fraud, change the culture to openness, increase accountability, and have better data-driven decisions. And so with that, thank you so much. And I'll turn this back over to the panel for the questions, and we'll go from there.
We do have some questions.
Great.
And again, if you have questions, please email them to idogquestions@gmail.com, or if you're here in the room, you can write them on the little yellow cards, hold up your card, and the volunteers will pick them up from you and bring them up here. Our first question is, how would you compare county commissioner salaries and see who's the highest and the lowest? And is this information up to date?
Great question. So if I come back to Townhall or Transparent Idaho, and I select county, the one thing is, I believe the information for the payroll salaries have reloaded the most current, or we're in the process. We've gathered that. So this is last fiscal year is what's posted out there. We only load it once a year for the local governments. State government, we load it nightly. So that's the freshness. But if you were to come down to the bottom here, this has all the county salaries. And then you'd be able to select, I would say, type in commissioner, if I spelled it right. And you'd be able to pipe, there's county commissioner. Well, it's how they name them, because they have District 2. There's some more standardization that can be done, but you could be able to pull open or just go in one by one and pull that. This happens to be Bear Lake, Brad and Rex and Vaughn, I know. So, but that's how you would look up county commissioners, or any, if you want to compare sheriff to sheriff, be able to come in here statewide.
You started to answer one of the questions, just the freshness of the data. So with the local entities, when is it that they're getting updated?
So with the locals, we're going to post and update it once a year. As we get more of the transactional level data, we'll post that more frequently, probably quarterly once we get to that standpoint. But we're working with the locals to say what's the best and most useful time. But right now it's annually for the local government, and then we'll move to a more frequent thing.
What time of year annually?
Oh, we want to do it when the counties are busy, so we want to do it, this time of year.
Okay.
Let me phone a friend. I think, what's the time frame of when you load that for the locals?
So, just real quick, the budgets are done annually, but the salaries are actually loaded quarterly. So then we'll start to increase that for you as well. By statute, you're required to submit to this.
Okay, so maybe real quick, I'll just repeat that for those online. The budget and expenditure stuff is loaded annually. The salary will be loaded quarterly. And the time frame of what time of the year is the information loaded is around the first of the year, because the information is due to Central Registry December 1.
We have a question from an online participant who notes that the statewide website has information on four-year colleges and universities, and the local one has K through 12 schools, but she can't find anything about community colleges. Is that on there?
Community colleges are not on there at this point. That's something we'd love to get to, and I know that our team has that on their to-do list. So great question and great point.
Let's see. Do you want to touch base? One of the questions came in. Is there any uniformity guidelines regarding how audits are conducted by department personnel and their own programs? So I don't know if this ties into what you're...
I'm trying to think of how they're asking or what that real question is, but I guess from a standpoint, the auditors
let me add to that question. Mm-hmm. So I guess, are audit results part of any of the data that you shared today?
Yes. So the audit information is loaded. So that's what I show here. If I come down to, if I pick I'll pick Ada County. And if I scroll down to the very bottom, there's Ada County's audit, and I can download that, and there's their information right there. The key part, audits have a standard that they have to follow, governmental accounting standards that they have to follow. And so whether you're with Eide Bailly or Clifton Larson or whatever your flavor of choice for auditors, they have a standard and principles that they're supposed to follow for that consistency. Now, may it be a little different from auditor to auditor of how they do things? Yes. But there should be a baseline minimum for the auditors to follow, if that's kind of along the line of what that question was too. So.
We have a question about when you look at some of the data on here, and the identifiers aren't terms that are familiar. So there are two parts to this question. First is there someone you can call an email for help with that? And second is, our participant says she doesn't think the average citizen in Custer County, where she lives, understands the general categories for county expenditures. For example, she would bet you could pull the next 10 people she sees in Chalice, and they wouldn't be able to explain intergovernmental expenses. So how do you deal with this when you search information on there, but the identifiers aren't familiar or self-explanatory? That's
a great thing. I have to teach my person from Custer County a lot too, so it's hard for them. They do. No, just kidding. That's a great question, and I think that's part of our engagement and our education. Government accounting is so much different than the private sector and the private world. I think that's our opportunity to share that. One of the key things, like I shared there on our homepage, if I come back, this link right here, when you're in the state side especially, gives that structure of what those terms and information are, being able to help understand the chart of accounts of what the state has. That's a key thing of what's an object code, summary object, object code, sub-object. Help explain and understand that thing. So those are the terms, but that's on us to be able to have that. And the first part of the question is, yes, contact the controller's office, and we do have for our Transparent Idaho, we do have an email, and we can call into our office as well. We'd be glad to, again, do further, more detailed trainings and explanation as well. But yes, we'd love to walk through that.
You mentioned in your introduction, Brandon, one of the cookie jar analogy and just deterring fraud. Does your office catch or see any type of fraud through any of this, or?
Yes. I mean, there's key things in fraud. Let me share an example here of we're the bad guys. So this was last summer. Transportation was making a payment for an eminent domain that they were grabbing from a citizen up in Hayden area. It was for a payment for $199,000. And the bad guys got on Transparent Idaho. They saw this large payment to this citizen. They used social engineering. They probably looked on Facebook or whatever else. They found out this Joe's name or Sally's name, whatever. Called up, hey, this is Bob from ITD. We're making that payment out for $109,000, $832.67 to you. Can we get your bank information so we can send this to you quicker? And he's like, yeah, that's the exact dollar amount, it's ITD, and all this information makes sense. Well, they did this over the 4th of July. Bad guys know to do things on holidays and weekends because who's working? Well, government usually isn't working on the holidays and weekends, right? So they knew that. The second key piece was Bob here realized that didn't seem right. ITD told me they cut a check, it's getting it from the controller's office, they were going to pick it up, and then it was going to be FedExed, probably en route. Tried to contact their bank. Bank's not open on 4th of July weekend as well. Long story short, they were able to get it solved and cared for. Bob got his check on Tuesday. But it got us thinking. Our part is, bad guys are using this tool as well. So we put a 2-week delay on all vendor payments of what we show here. So we do it nightly, but we put a 2-week delay to allow citizens to cash their check or to redeem their ACH payment. So there's a lot. And there's people, we do block out from a standpoint of there's some underage state employees that maybe work for alcohol beverage control that check convenience stores and other places of beverages. We hide and disclose, redact their information, a lot of things. But there's a lot of potential with this information that bad guys can use it. So our part is being able to stay one step ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our State Controller, Brandon Wolf. Please thank him again. And thank you all for participating. Thank you to all of our partners in this effort. And please look out for an email containing an evaluation survey. It will be coming from the address noreply@qemailserver.com, just to warn you, and with a reply to address in the Idaho Secretary of State's office at sos.idaho.gov. Please fill out the evaluation. It will help us improve our future presentations, which are September 27th, Campaign Finance and Lobbying Data, featuring Phil McGrain. October 25th, Open Meeting Law, featuring former Chief Deputy Idaho Attorney General Brian Kane and myself. And November 28th, Public Records Law, also with Brian Kane and myself. Go to openidaho.org for more information on IDOG, on how to support us, and on our upcoming events. And thanks again.